I saw this video on TikTok and it got me so emotional. A lady was sharing a story and it is really sad. It's a very long story, but you all need to watch to the end because she went through a whole lot. A whole lot. So I'm going to go ahead and play the videos for you all to watch. Then I'll come back at the end of the video to talk about it.
Hi everyone, my name is Adelise and I'm going to be sharing today with you my deepest, darkest secrets. These secrets are extremely dark, and if you're not capable of mentally handling certain things, please don't listen to this. This is my trigger warning right now. I had a really important day today. I had an appointment with the DEA office. I have been meeting with detectives and attorneys for the last year. I've been talking with them ever since I made the first step to trying to heal. So let me start from the beginning. I come from a family of violence and abuse, but my immediate family is where my trauma comes from mostly. So I'm going to start at the beginning because it's a lot to tell you, a lot. From the moment that I was born, my mom was getting abused by my dad, physically, emotionally. She ends up leaving my dad at 2 years old. When I was 2 years old, she left my dad. She left my dad and started dating his brother. She dated his brother and had my sister 2 years later. So I was 4 years old when my sister was born. From the moment of being with him until the moment we left when I was 10 years old, it was filled with severe trauma. My first memory is at 3 years old, and I was being sexually abused. I was on a bed, and a full-grown man, he was my dad, my stepdad, but he was my dad figure, my sister's dad, full-grown man trying to penetrate me anally. I remember defecating on him and him getting very angry. And I remember the bedroom, I remember the apartment, I remember my sister not even being born yet. I remember my mom being pregnant still and the crib being in the room. I remember everything from that moment. That is my first memory of abuse. From then, I was sexually, physically, and emotionally abused almost every single day for the next 8 years. I was severely beaten at 5 years old when I placed a phone call to the police station just to have fun. I had, hold on, part 2 of my story. So I was talking about how I was 5 years old and I made a call to the police station. Pretty much why I made the call was because I was a huge fan of police officers and of Power Rangers, and I had a Power Rangers phone in my bedroom. I remember being in my towel, sneakily making the phone call, and when the police answered, I hung up. We had another phone inside the kitchen, and they ended up calling back. They called back and said, "Hey, we had a phone call. Is everything all right?" The person who picked up the phone was my stepdad. He picked up the phone and said, "Yeah, everything's all right. I don't know why she called. I'll go check on it." He hung up. I heard him on the phone. Everything I hear him talking. I'm in my room still in my towel. After he's done with the phone call, he comes to me and he is vivid, and he's just like, "Did you call the police on me?" And I was just like, "No." And he was just like, "You want me to go to jail? You want me to go to jail?" And he was freaking out totally. And then I see him go to the closet where he usually goes to go get the wire to hit us. He hit us with cable wires or extension cords or whatever. And I saw him take the wire and put it to the side. And I was just like, okay, why is he not getting the wire to hit me? I see him rummaging through the top shelf, and I see him pull out like a wire hanger, pulling out like a bunch of stuff. So I'm like, is he trying to find something to hit me with? Because he just put the wire away. And then I see him pull out a 2x4, like a really, really big, giant piece of wood. And he beat me so hard with that piece of wood. He beat me on my butt. He beat me so hard. To this day, I think the worst pain I've ever had in my life. He beat me so hard that my butt was completely black and blue. I couldn't sit for weeks. For weeks. At 5 years old, I got beat so hard. My mom was there. I remember her just crying and crying and not knowing what to do. I could see that she just had no idea what to do. I remember her laying me on her lap, right? In the bedroom. After all this happened, she laid me on her lap and she started to apply cream on my butt. And she was crying and stuff. But I remember her just touching my butt, trying to put cream on it, and it was severely painful. And that was my second trauma that I remember, 5 years old. I remember the whole layout of this place. This is the same place where he molested me or sexually abused me anally at 3 years old. Part 3. So we left off talking about how I was physically abused with a 2x4 because I made a phone call to the police playfully, not even trying to get him in trouble or anything. I had no idea really at that time that I needed help. I knew that what he was doing was wrong and he was hurting me, but I was 5. I was still growing, learning. So from there, the abuse never stopped. Physically getting hit with wires to the point where my skin would break and I would bleed, slashes all over my body. The most horrendous pain, just being 5, 6, horrible. Being in the corner on my knees, kneeling on rice for several hours. And whenever you got down off of your knees, you would get beat, get back up, get hit with a cord, a wire, and be in pain. Being grounded for 2-3 months at a time in your room where the only thing you could do was stay awake. There was no games. You had to ask permission to leave to use the bathroom. Being at the dinner table and not eating your food because you're a picky kid, getting beat up for that, getting smashed, sleeping and grinding your teeth, most likely from stress, but getting awoken from your sleep with a slap as a little child. While all of this was happening, this physical abuse, I was getting sexually abused. I never got to lose my virginity. I don't remember when it happened, but I was 5, 6, maybe younger. I don't remember, but I was having full-blown sex for sure by the age of 6. I would get tied down with belts, ropes, and get penetrated. I would be forced to go into a basement. I used to be deathly scared of basements. I mean, I still am deathly scared of basements, but I would get forced to go into the basement to have sex. I remember one time being tied up, video recorded, and penetrated with numerous objects. Some of them being fruits and vegetables from our kitchen table. I was penetrated with a squash that was about this big, and I was about 7 or 8 years old when that happened, and that was hours and hours of being tied down and penetrated. Part 4. So I was just describing to you how I was being abused physically, sexually, emotionally, but the sexual part, I mean, all of it's horrendous, but the sexual part nobody ever knew about. I kept that secret with me until I turned 29. I mean, I told my mom at 14, very, very slightly, that I was abused, but never told her in graphic details until I turned 29. I recently graduated the police academy and felt lost. I felt like I was a phony. I went there so I could help other people, and I realized I never helped myself. So when I graduated, I told myself I needed to heal, or I needed to find justice. And I never wanted to speak about this because I knew it would hurt my mom, it would hurt my sister. This was my sister's dad. And when I told him when I was 14, I was pretty much dismissed and called a liar by my sister. And only because she loved her father, even though her father abused her physically, she just didn't want to believe it, I guess. So when I was called a liar then, I kind of just told myself, I'm not going to put them through any more hurt, because if they really knew what he did to me, it would destroy them. They just barely knew, and they were very distraught by what I told them. So when I was 29, I'm 30 now. When I was 29, I told them because I just couldn't live like this no more. I've learned so much about life, and the fact that this person is living free, I wanted to change. But my story doesn't end there. At 10 years old, my stepdad put a knife to my mother's neck, which in return, she had to call the police, and we saw that. So DCF got involved, and in the end, we ended up moving. We became homeless. We were in a shelter, and life had to move on from there, right? I'm going to get into more about my childhood. So that from the age of 2 to 10, I was with my stepfather, my sister's father, my uncle, because he's my dad's brother. And he is the most evilest man I've ever encountered. And he has done the most evilest things to me, from torturing me, recording me, raping me viciously, hurting me viciously. And then we moved, right? Part 5 coming up. This is part 5. So we ended the conversation with us leaving when I was 10 years old. There's more I can tell you about what I've been through with that. But I think you guys you understand the gist of it, right? So we left when I was 10. We became homeless, blah, 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 blah. My abuse didn't stop there. I thought my life would be better. It would change, right? So we were homeless. We were in a shelter for a year. I ended up meeting my best friend there. During that time in middle school, to this day, still my best friend, my ride or die. But shortly after, my mom met a man at work at Salvation Army, and they ended up getting together, and we all moved in together. To make this story short, he ended up abusing me sexually severely. He raped me he abused me more than 5 times, but rape, I mean like full-blown rape, where I'm screaming for help, grasping at the door, begging for my life, my clothes are being ripped off of me, and me being sexually raped. That was my next stage of my life. Never said anything. This man also abused my mom physically. He would push her. I would push him. There's times where I ran up to him with a knife. I was getting abused by him. Police were in and out of our lives. DCF in and out. Finally, my mom leaves him after numerous times of him begging to stay and that he's sorry. He was also a crackhead. Obviously, none of this was in the beginning. In the beginning, he was a saint and amazing. And then, obviously, true colors come out. Right? We leave that scenario not too long. But my mom stays with him for like 2 years. And those 2 years, another scenario happens to me. And it's going to be hard for you to believe this, right? I haven't seen my dad since I was 2 years old. Barely talked to him, maybe a handful of times on the phone. During that summer of me being 12, we talked a lot about me visiting next summer when I was 13. So I ended up visiting my father in Puerto Rico all by myself, took a plane for the first time by myself at 13, went to a whole nother country by myself, and met my father, who I've never met before, technically, because I was 2, right? So when I get to Puerto Rico, I'm having the best time of my life. I've never been on vacation, never left literally Massachusetts. I'm having the best time of my life until of my story. So I started off telling you guys that I went to Puerto Rico and I was having the time of my life with my biological father, who is also my stepfather's brother, my sister's uncle. So everything changed in a matter of a night. We ended up watching a scary movie. It was like a chupacabra movie. It was like the mascot of scariness in Puerto Rico. It's the tale that everybody's telling for years, whatever. I was deathly afraid of the dark, and I could not sleep. I kept hearing cockroaches hitting my blinds. I was terrified. So at that point, I was feeling very confident in my father and safe and happy just to have a father. I asked if I could sleep in his bed. A part of me was terrified because I was abused my whole childhood, but I had hope, and I can't doubt him, he didn't give me any reasons why. My father, he raped me in his bed that night. I just laid there and pretended like I was sleeping. And it was like 2 hours, and he did everything under the sun sexually that he could to me. And when he was done, he laid on top of my body and cried and begged the Lord to forgive him and that he was sorry for what he did, and just cried on top of me. I didn't wake up. I didn't move. I was numb. I lost all faith in humanity at that point. Every day I would relive all the good times that we had. From meeting Daddy to seeing El Morro. I had the time of my life in Puerto Rico. Joe was on a motorcycle for the first time. All of that disappeared. My faith in God, everything just disappeared the moment that happened. And I had to live with him for like another 2 weeks, knowing that none of it happened. The following 2 weeks, he tried to groom me. He would ask me questions about my sexuality and all this other stuff. I knew it was wrong, but just really tried. So yeah, I was explaining to you how I lost all faith in humanity once that happened, and then realized how I completely forgot to tell you guys that during the time that I was 2 years old until I was 10 years old, those 8 years with my stepfather, I was also abused by his sons, his children. I can't believe I forgot that. I was just so caught up in telling you the abuse that I received from my stepfather, that I just totally left my mind. But he has 3 sons, all much older than me. One was in the army, who I grew really fond of. I respected him greatly because I was surrounded by his evil father and his 2 evil brothers. So yeah, one brother, he was in the army, I think was a great guy. The other 2, one was horrible to me, never sexually penetrated me, but sexually abused me. He made me do oral on him when I was about 5 years old, and he was caught in the act doing it. I was beat up for it. He was beat up for it. And we were kept from each other. I was 5 and he was like 13 or 14. But all those years he kept consistently trying to do stuff to me, and I avoided him as best as I could. I couldn't avoid his older brother though. His older brother sexually raped me numerous times, abused me the whole time I was little, the same way his father was. None of them did it at the same time. None of them, I think, knew that each other were doing it because it was all very secret. But the older brother would go into my bedroom. My sister was sleeping on the bottom bunk. I was sleeping on the top bunk. I'm 6 or 7 is the first time that I remember. I'm 6 the first time that I remember, and he used to pull me from my top bunk. I remember hiding, not hiding, but like pushing myself against the wall as far as I could so he couldn't reach me, because he was trying to be really secret and quiet. So I was trying to like make sure he couldn't get me. But there was many nights that he would carry me out of my bedroom and abuse me, and I never said anything. And the reason why I'm telling you guys all this is because I lived my life as a lie this whole time. Nobody knows what's in my head. Why am I depressed? Why am I the way I am? Why am I so sincere to being peaceful? Why am I so hardworking and compassionate? And why did I try to become a police officer? What are my reasons? I know there's a lot of information that I just gave you, and this barely touches the tip of the iceberg of what I've been through. I'm just trying to give you enough detail so you understand where I'm coming from. Right now, I feel extremely guilty that I waited so long, because I was told today by the DEA that right now it's a he said, she said stuff. There's my cousin who lived with us when she was younger, and she remembers also being abused by my stepdad. There is one time that we both can pinpoint and be like, yes, I remember that, you remember that. And I was forced to do stuff with her, so she remembers that too. Even with that information, the DEA says that it's not a strong enough case to move forward. They fear that there will be years of court and a not guilty verdict. I really thought that I had a strong enough case here, and I don't. So right now I feel extremely guilty that I waited as long as I did. I know that it's not my fault. I just wish that I spoke up sooner. All the abuse stopped when I came back from Puerto Rico, and my mom ended up leaving her boyfriend who was abusing me too. Everything changed when I turned pretty much 15. I have not been abused since, and I've been living my life as best as I can since, but I have complex PTSD, I have anxiety, I have so much wrong with me mentally because of everything that I've been through. I don't want anyone to have to think they have to wait for a better time. There's no better time than right now. Even if it means you being taken away from your mom or your family, because that was my fear. I was scared I was going to have my mom be put to jail. I was scared that she was going to have a heart attack from the things that she learned. I was scared that she was going to disown me. Don't be scared of that. Get your justice right away. You should not be going through what you're going through. I waited until I was 29. The statute of limitations, I'm right on the cusp of the statute of limitations. And what I was told today by the DEA has broken my heart. So I'm here today just wanting to tell my story. I can't live this lie anymore. I want to be free.
There's really not much to say about this. I can't even imagine how she must have felt all those years. She was being molested, sexually abused by her father, her stepdad, her cousins, or what would I call them? Yes, that's her stepdad's son, her mom's boyfriend. I feel like this story should just like teach one, should like, how would I put it? if you're going through something like this, I feel like it's better you speak up on time, because at the end of the day, she still got no justice. Like, they're still walking out freely. I can just imagine the pain she's going through, seeing what someone has caused and still walking out freely. Like, you don't have anything against him, because they will ask for evidence and you don't have the evidence. And even if you have spoke up when you were young, you'll be very scared. I really don't know what to say concerning this video. This video is really heartbroken. When I watched the whole story, it's really heartbroken, and I don't know. I just hope she's fine now. I hope she gets better, because this is going to haunt her like forever. It's crazy. I really like to hear what you all think down in the comment section. But I just want to say something to someone that might be going through something like this. Please try to speak up on time. Try to talk to someone, like elderly person you can trust around you, that can help you, or just call the police or something. Don't just be scared to talk, because the more you get scared to talk, the more they keep doing this to you, and it won't stop. I feel like that's just all I have to say concerning this video. Hey guys, my name is Maria David, and thank you all so much for sticking around to this point. I hope you enjoyed this one, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. And of course, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.